Hello and welcome to this guide for the score attack against the Uwasa of the Commoner's Horse. This is the first score attack where a boss will summon minions. He has a permanent damage reduction, but each time you kill a minion the amount of damage reduction diminish. You only need to kill 2 minions to fully remove the damage reduction, so focus them at the start of the fight. The boss will resummon them once they're dead, but you don't have to kill them again. The power of your barriers and heals is divided by 2 in this fight, but the enemies deal pretty low damage so it actually doesn't matter a lot. The boss has both an attack debuff and defense buff, which will drastically reduce your damage. The attack debuff only lasts 3 turns, so there is a small window where it won't be active, assuming your damage dealer get as much turns as the boss. But the defense buff lasts 4 turns and is reapplied every 4 turns, so it will be active permanently if you can't remove it. The boss can also buff its resistance to break gauge depletion. Just like the defense buff, it will be active permanently since it lasts 4 turns. But even with this buff active, you can deal a decent amount of break gauge reduction, so it's not as important to remove it. But one of the most important thing about the skills of the boss is that both of its attacks deal damage based on its defense, which means that the defense buff will increase its damage, but if you debuff its defense you can reduce it. So be sure to bring a defense debuffer since the efficacy of your sustains is reduced. There's nothing to say about the minions outside of the fact that they also deal defense-based damage, so be sure to reduce their defense too. Just like previous score attacks, most of the score comes from the maximum amount of damage you deal in a single attack. So to maximize your score as much as possible, you want to attack all enemies at once while they're broken, and both the boss's defense buff and the attack debuff are inactive. And of course after you killed the minions once to remove the boss's damage reduction. The best supports for this are Magia and Uwasa. Magia can remove the attack debuff from your damage dealer as well as provide an insane amount of buff to them, especially if they have an elemental advantage. And Uwasa can debuff the defense of all the enemies at once on top of removing their buff, although keep in mind that you can only take full advantage of the debuff from her skill if you use a light or dark damage dealer. If you don't have them, the best alternative for Uwasa is Ren. She can't remove buffs but can debuff all enemies at once with all her skills. Is also good, but despite the fact that she can remove buffs, the fact that her special attack is single target means you can't debuff all the enemies at once, so you will deal more damage to the boss, but less total damage since the mobs won't have the debuff from her special attack. The best buffer for this after Magia is Tsuruno. Since there are 3 enemies, the speed buff from her ability will be active quite often, but most importantly she has the second highest attack buff after Magia, so she can somewhat counter the attack debuff despite not being able to remove it. And obviously Mami and Moemura are really good choices as always, and Felicia is pretty good just due to the fact that she can debuff defense. With this score attack Oriko finally has a chance to shine. Although both Homura and Momoko should deal a bit more damage since there are only 3 enemies, Oriko is on par with them. But if you look at the leaderboard for this score attack you'll notice that all the highest scores uses Oriko, and that's because her Ascension 2 boosts the damage of her special attack by a lot, so while at Ascension 0 she's a bit below the other 2, at high Ascensions she outdamaged them by a lot. So if you have to choose between any of these 3, choose the one with the most Ascensions. And if you have to choose between them at A2, choose Oriko. You really want to use an AoE breaker for this fight so you can easily break all the enemies at once. If you use a single target breaker, be sure to alternate between targets so you can break them in short succession, in order to have them all broken at the same time at least once so you can nuke all enemies at once, and then focus on the boss to finish the fight. And for sustains we want to prioritize one that can also increase our damage to really maximize our score, so Doppelei Roha and Sayaka will be our best choice, and Sanatu to a lesser extent if you use a crit attacker. The easiest team to clear this score attack with is classic double support team comp, with at least 1 defense debuffer. Unlike previous score attack, it's possible to tank the boss with only 1 sustain even at rank 15 as long as you keep the defense of all the enemies debuffed for the whole fight to reduce their damage. But if you have time on your hands you can also clear the fight without a breaker in order to add 1 more support in your team. If you use this team I recommend to use a healer rather than a defender because the fight will be long and any chip damage that manages to pass through your shield will be permanent. But the best team in order to get the highest score possible is to fill your entire team with supports and single damage dealer. This is possible due to the fact that since there are 3 enemies, the score you get from damage can get stupidly high, so high in fact that you don't even need to finish fight, you just nuke the boss once and let it kill you. Of course this is incredibly hard since even if the boss doesn't deal a lot of damage, since the fight will take a while because you don't have a breaker, you have a high chance to die before setting up the perfect conditions to nuke the enemies, and the strat isn't worth it if you can't deal at least 1,000,000 damage in a single hit. That's it for this video. As usual, my clear of the score attack is available in the description, and if you have any questions don't hesitate to leave a comment. Goodbye and see you soon.